I want to share a little bit more about this piece of the methodology I've been building. So, inside of my program, the Empower Method, I've built these little frameworks and I've been using them as I can to help educate clients and other people that I'm speaking to about the power of having something to lean on when you're learning concepts. And that's really what the flow framework is. So, what is it? It's a thought process that helps you understand how to work with your body's natural rhythms. So, really, this is about how do you work with your physiology? What do you do to do that? How do you do that? And so, some of this in this training and inside of this piece of the classroom is overlapping knowledge. But I think repetition matters. And I think that's one of the ways that we can continue to learn. We can continue to learn together what's working, what's not, why isn't something working, how can we become more mindful, how can we continue to learn together, and how can we just educate each other through our own experiences what will serve us best over our longevity health. And so this is really a framework that's centered around helping you identify patterns, helping you build self-awareness, helping you make informed decisions. That is ultimately what I want more than anything as a coach. I want informed knowledge to become empowered decisions for your health journey. And so that is what the flow framework is all about. So this is flow stands for follow your cycle or the moon, right? Actually start tracking, learn your hormones. So understanding what your hormones are, what's happening with them, observe your symptoms, understand what's happening with energy symptoms throughout the month and what's going on, and then work with your body. As you learn the other three things, you learn to actually work with your body overall. So, really, this is about understanding again your physiology and why understanding your physiology matters. Hormonal fluctuations, especially as we get into midlife, like we've talked about, can lead to all kinds of symptoms. Maybe you haven't experienced any yet. Maybe you've experienced a lot. Maybe you have friends or your mom or someone in your network that has experienced things, and everything that you have experienced is valid and real. And so hormonal fluctuations play a role in literally every function in the body, from energy to brain, mood, digestion, sleep, sexual health, gut health, bone density, strength, skin, all of it. Hormones fluctuating play a role in this larger cascade of bodily functions. And so the more we can get educated, the more we can continue to do better for our health, for our longevity, and so much more. So the F in flow, like I said, is for follow the cycle or the moon. So this is where you're tracking your cycle. You're paying attention to the key phases, follicular, ovulatory, luteal, and menstrual. You're using a cycle chart or you're mapping, symptoms and patterns. I've talked about the Stardust app. There's tons of apps on the App Store. You can use a hard copy sheet. You can go on Etsy. There's tons of trackers you can download for $2. Like there are lots of ways you can track this, but this is crucial to start to get used to doing. And if you're not doing it, really get into the place of trying to do it more and educate others to do it, right? Tell your daughters to do it. Tell your friends to do it. This is a huge insight into your overall body and how you're feeling, right? And then the reflection component is starting to notice trends. How's my energy? How's my mood throughout each phase? What's actually going on? So that's what the F is in flow. Then we move to learning your hormones. This is where we start to really dig deeper into estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. When are they fluctuating? How and why? What does that mean for our brain, our body, our emotions? And then actually recording our energy, our mood, our cravings, and tying those to the hormonal shifts. You will often see, and seen this, when progesterone specifically starts to drop off, especially more rapidly as you get into the midlife transition, things like irritability is a big one. Like you have a shorter fuse. You feel more anxious. You can't sleep as well. Why? Because progesterone is our calming hormone. It is one of the hormones our body desperately needs in order to nurture our nervous system, in order to help us feel calm, in order to promote great rest. So when that starts to fluctuate and deplete, it's no wonder we feel anxious, feel irritable, can't sleep. That's a big one, right? On top of a larger cascade of hormonal fluctuation symptoms, but that's something that I wanted to share. So this reflection is about how do these fluctuations actually show up in your daily life? What is going on from a symptom standpoint, right? And that brings us to this specific graphic that I've already shared in other trainings, but it's good to continue to see this. What's happening with the different hormones, estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone at different phases of the cycle, and what does that mean from a mood and energy standpoint overall? This is another quick graphic that I share inside of this piece of the classroom, which is essentially how our hormones fluctuate and change over the life cycle, right? This isn't actually a graphic from Dr. Laura Briden, and she shares how, like, when we're in our teens, reproductive years, our hormones are on a pretty typical cadence. You can see it very easily from this graphic, like very predictable, progesterone versus estrogen. They do a similar dance and they're very predictable and most often balanced and optimized against each other. But then when you get into perimenopause, menopause, etc., everything is unpredictable. Everything is wildly different, wildly erratic. And so symptoms change, energy changes, what our hormones are actually able to do in the body changes. And so again, getting educated is what makes the difference. So if we move over to the O in the flow framework, this is about observing symptoms. Are you getting bloated, headaches, fatigued? Are you anxious? Do you have mood swings? Are you struggling with focus? What is happening and when? The reflection here is really asking and seeing what are the signals your body is giving you today and trying to track those things and keeping a pulse on them so you can continue to build that ongoing awareness. And then again, the W is about learning to work with your body, which is really what this entire part of this classroom is about, is how do we work with the body? Where do we start? What do we do? Why does it even matter? It matters because at the end of the day, physiologically, women need to be nurtured and we need to be paying attention to our energy and our mood and how we feel in a totally different way than our male counterparts. That's just the truth. We get burned out and stressed when we work way out of alignment for way too long, right? So we have to be understanding our habits, our exercise, our nutrition, our sleep. We have to be unpacking that and paying attention to what serves us best at different phases of the cycle. And again, even if you're not cycling, this still applies because cyclically, we are different from an energy standpoint when we follow the energy of the moon, which we all do as women as well, right? So this is something to just continue to be mindful of and aware of so you can continue to get into this reflective place of figuring out how do I want to adapt my routine and how do I want to ebb and flow and be as mindful as I can to make sure that I'm really supporting my body as well as I can. So again, this is kind of another quick snapshot of the menstrual cycle phases. What do we need physiologically at different points of the phases, right? Menstrual, follicular, ovulation, luteal. There are different focuses from an exercise standpoint, from a nutrition standpoint, from a mindset standpoint. This is from Dr. Daniel Amen. Very, very powerful information, right? The brain doctor. He is so incredibly knowledgeable when it comes to talking about what are the things we can do to help set ourselves up for longevity success, but also how do we nurture our brain? We can't do that well if we don't know what's happening from a hormonal fluctuation standpoint, because hormones drive so many biological processes in the body. So the more we know, the better we can do for ourselves, right? And so in the end, it's about interpreting your physiology. That is what powers your perspective. That is what gives you the insight you need in order to make educated and empowered decisions for your health.